Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video features a little bit of a different card for me. It is a pop-up gatefold card, which is really actually was fun to put together. So these products are from Pink and Main, but then you have your little window that opens and then our little flower box pops up. And I just think it is the cutest little thing. So I'm going to start with these are the products that I use. These are the window dies. If you've never used Pink and Main before, their dies are pink, which I think is really adorable. And then I use the Dreamy Dragonflies. I showed you one stamp set, and then I used another one. I think it's called Fresh Blooms. I used those just for the sentiments. And then this pearl, they call it, what do they call it? Paint and splatter and paint, something like that. And they have a bunch of different colors. This one is pearl, which is like the perfect color for me. It is a great alternative to like perfect pearls, but it's already mixed. So you guys know I went through my scrap bucket because I'm using these scraps, right? I used this is, I think, Nautical Navy from Gina K. And then I cut my flower box and all of the window trim pieces out of white. And then I just picked out a bunch of different colors for cardstock for my leaves and my flowers. I cut each flower out of one out of each color. So I cut the tulips out of purple and then I cut the larger like open blooms out of purple, so on and so forth. I cut all of the middles out of yellow. I think even like without the windows dies, I think that there's a lot that you can do with these little flowers because you guys know me and I'm cheap and I like to get more bang for my buck. Speaking of cheap, Pink and Main, if you spend over $75, you get free shipping, which I know isn't a thing everywhere anymore, but that's really helpful to have. Um, and um, this is something it's been years and years, not because I don't love their stuff. That's not why. It's just been a long time since I have worked with Pink and Main. I have like a story about that. I think just because I got like caught up with doing other things. But Michelle, who is the owner, actually has muscular dystrophy. So when you purchase from Pink and Main, there is a percentage that goes to muscular dystrophy research, which I think is amazing. Okay, so I cut out my main shutters in the navy. Now I'm going back in and I'm cutting out, I really just want the middle piece of the frame and the windows out of white. And then I'm going to cut a second set of shutters. So you can see I don't have anything in the middle. I'm just using scraps around the edges so that I can get just my extra set of shutters. Because here's my idea. I want the shutters to open and close, but I don't want them to look all bajiggity when they're closed. Because you know how sometimes when we put them through our die cutting machine, it kind of presses into that pre-cut, like unless you have just a totally clean plastic piece, which I don't. So anyway, so here I'm very gently folding them in on their like they have a score mark for the window, and then I'm going to reinforce that with a bone folder, and then like you could do that, absolutely you could do that, so that they open and close. But here, because this shutter on the left hand side is an exact match, if I cut one of those and then trim it off so that it's just the shutter, one of them was almost like perfectly sized and the other one I did have to trim. But then I can glue them to the front of those and they will make it look all nice, like it's all intentional and on purpose. So that's my game plan. For the inside pieces of that white portion, like to make the inside woodwork of the window frame white, I'm just using the blue that's like left over on a well-seasoned blending brush. And I am adding just a little blue, kind of like to the top or the bottom or the left and the right hand corners. And I know that it doesn't look like much right now, but once it's next to the white, you'll like really be able to see it. And that's going to be my reflection in my window. For this white portion, I am trimming off where the shutters would be. And actually you need to trim off a little bit extra. So like a little bit inside that line, because we want the shutters to completely close. So the frame does need to be a little bit skinnier uh, so that everything can close. And it's going to be the same thing with the flower box. We're going to have to make some little trims. So then here is my white part. You guys know, if you watch my channel, I am dying for a navy blue house with white trim. I'm ready for it. And my house is not that color. My house is brown. Mer, mer. But I'm grateful that I have a house, so I can't complain too much. So then here, I'm trimming these off just at an angle. I'm just running them through after I've adhered that like little trim scallop piece. This side gave me a little bit of a hard time, so I just did enough to get it marked, and then I trimmed the rest of it the way through with the scissors. I took off kind of like, one with your hair, like if you trim a little, you can't glue it back on if you trim too much. So that is the way that I went. I did, I think, have to trim it twice just to make sure that it fit. But I just took like the littlest bit and then the littlest bit. This is the pop-up piece. This is included in the die for the window box to pop up, and it has just like the 3 pieces. They're already pre-scored. You just fold them, and then here, because I've trimmed mine, I know I have to trim this piece as well. So that's not a huge deal. I just, laid it there, lined it up, and then this is what's going to pop up our box portion. So now we're going to start gluing and building everything together, and then we did really very minimal coloring for this one. You'll notice that I'm taking the time to put the glue on all of the lines. That's because it's open and I don't want it to like smush out onto my desk. I'm going to do the same thing when I am building the outside box, the actual gatefold part to keep it together. I'll have to do the same thing so it doesn't smush out onto my project and keep it from opening. So, I can't believe we're almost done with May. It's the last day of May. Seems like just yesterday I was seeing all them Justin Timberlake memes of it's going to be May. But we survived it, you guys. It is the busiest month. It is crazy. So yesterday we had Peanut Butter's birthday party, and that was the last event for May. We were hoping to get the pool clean, which we were able to. Like, we were able to get the pool clean and open, because my wonderful husband, like, we went out there, we struggled through it. I know he had other things on his plate, but he made it a priority to get those things done so that we would be able to open the pool in case he had weather that he could go swimming. It ended up being like a high of like 69, so not really swim weather. Here, now I've glued down the frame piece, and now I'm just going to fit my little ink blended windows back in. I will say there was like one or two where, because I thought they'd be all the exact same size, there is one or two where there's just like a smidge of a difference. So if it seems like it's a little too big, it might be a little too big. And if it seems like it's a little too small, it might be a little too small. Just poke it into another hole and see if it fits. And then this piece I'm going to put down, and I know it's hard to see the blue on the other one, but once we put the stark white against it, you'll be able to see that blue shading that we added, and then they really will look like windows. See, it makes a ton of difference to be able to see those right next to that white, and now they truly do look like windows. And then I'm putting down my pop-up, I'm putting down the frame pieces. The pop-up one, I'm just going to lay there while I get my flowers in place. And then once I have everything where it needs to go for the flowers, I'll glue the pop-up down. So yeah, like I said, it wasn't exactly swim weather, but he was inviting some kids from school, and I was like, if they want to swim, I want them to have the option. We're in Ohio, but we do have a pool heater. But even like, so we didn't go completely broke. Even with the pool heater, the pool was only up to like 80. Which is not, I mean, I know that sounds warm, but when you're in a swimsuit and you're wet, it's not that warm. It's really not. It's really not. But I will say it did not rain, so I don't really have any complaints because we can fit people in our house, like a birthday sized amount of people, but if we start adding kids from school and stuff, it does get very loud. and a little crampty, like, what do we host? Oh, it was Eric's, I think Eric's 30th birthday. That was like in the winter, so everybody was inside our house and it was a little cramped. Um, so it was nice, especially after they started getting really loud, we could kick them out to the outside. And my little one loved, loved, loved chasing her big brother and his buddies around. She was 100% here for that. And as a little sister, I can completely understand, because me and my oldest sister, not so much, because there was quite a bit of time between us. We didn't become like much closer friends until we got older. But my middle sister, oh my gosh, I harassed her so much. I wanted to be just like her. I wanted to hang out with her and her cool friends. And I chased her around and terrorized her, I'm sure, endlessly. So I do let Caitlin like hang out with them a little bit, but then I also do let her know, like, hey, we have to let Nathan have some time to just hang out with his friends. Like, you can't always be hanging out with them. So for the flowers, I really didn't do too much coloring. I did just like 2 color blends, and I added the shading for the open flowers just around the centers, and just kind of extended it out. You can see, like, I did just like one little line down the center of the petal, and then I used a slightly lighter color to blend that out. For the actual centers, I just did like a little like dark yellow around the outside and then a lighter yellow right over that. For the tulips, because there is no centers, I just added a little bit of shading down along the bottom of that like C curve, and then blended it up. And then I did the same thing with the lighter color, just went right over top of that with the lighter color. And I think that this is a good mix of colors. This card feels very spring to me. I know we're getting away from spring and heading into more of a true summer. But I don't care. I like it anyway. I was really happy with the way that it came out. And so for the leaves, again, just simple 2 colors, darker color blended out with the lighter color. And I cut a bunch of these. I didn't even end up using as much as I cut, which is fine, because then those extra flowers and those extra leaves, for you could just tuck them into the container. For me, I give them to my daughter, and then she uses them on her little projects. So here, this was feeling very bare to me. So the little scallop decoration on the window box, I actually cut out of green. And then I'm going to use that to fill in the green area. I'm just going to flip it around so that it has like a nice little green, like green grass, almost like green grass, but obviously it would be like the leaves. And then I'm going to fit that in there so that way it helps the box look fuller. And then for these little dreamy dragonflies, I cut them out of the same pink and orange. And then this is like the pull and slide surprise. This is one of my next cards. I'm very excited about this because I have not done a pull and slide surprise card. I'm really leaning into the interactive cards. I think that they're a lot of fun, and I think maybe because my kids are still young and I have young kids like in my life to give them to, I think they're fun. As an adult, I would love to receive an interactive card. So here I stamped the sentiment first. This is going to be the sentiment that goes on the outside and acts as my closure for my gatefold. So I stamped it and then die cut that out. And then I used the scallop to cut out the navy to make it a little bit larger. For the dragonflies, I used the same colors that I did for the flowers. And I just added a little bit of darker shading where it's going to meet the body of the dragonfly, and then I flicked that out as well. Same thing with the oranges. This is funny. So I did this, okay? I did all of this, and then I went to put them together, and I realized that I had cut the wrong wings, the wrong base wings, for the wrong, like, because obviously they're 2 different levels. So then I had to go back in and do another one. I ended up doing their bodies gray. I started with a lighter color and it wasn't dark enough, so I did end up having to go back in with a C7. And then here's where we're going to use that pearl paint and splatter. So to make them stand out from one another and to make them shimmery, as all dragonflies should be, I am going to paint this. Look, it looks just like a nail polish paintbrush. I'm going to paint this right onto my detail layer for my dragonfly, and it's it's going to make them so shimmery. Now you'll still be able to see like the pink underneath it. But when the light catches it, it's just going to be all pearlescent. And then I'm going to glue those together. So, yeah, so like I said, can't complain about that. We ended up doing, because we did Memorial Day where we celebrate my sister's birthday, and we did like the typical cookout, burgers, hot dogs, pasta salad, potato salad, all of that normal stuff. And so since we were like back-to-back weekends, we decided to do pasta, per Nathan's request, because he does love pasta. So here that box is not glued into place. I'm just gluing everything behind it. And then that way it will stay, all of that will stay there. And then I will have some elements that will be glued to the box. So some of the elements pop up. I did cut very thin little pieces of green, and this is going to act as stems so that I can have different levels of flowers to help fill that box up. And so some of them, like I said, will be glued down to the actual window, and some of them will be glued to the box so that we have different levels, and some pop up and some stay glued down. So yeah, I made enormous amounts of rigatoni. We ordered chicken. We have like a Italian place that does like pizza and pastas and stuff. So we ordered chicken from them and some sheet pizzas. It was good. Everything was good. You guys know that like I like baking, and I typically bake my kids cakes. But he's been on an ice cream cake kick for a couple of years. The first year he wanted ice cream cake, I was not ready to let go of making his cakes, so I made him an ice cream cake. What and why? Why? What was I thinking? So that was the last year that I made his cake, was the year I made his ice cream cake, because he's wanted an ice cream cake every year since, and then I ordered them. Then I've just ordered them. Dairy Queen is good enough. So I had done that earlier in the week. He also had his last day of school this past week, which I did field day for. It was so windy, but again, no rain. It was a little bit on the cooler side, but I definitely did get some sun. Thankfully, I always, every single day, wear my SPF because of my skin cancer diagnosis some years ago. So it wasn't too bad. I think I got it on the back of my neck the worst, but even that wasn't terrible. So here, now that all of our flowers are glued together, I'm just double checking that everything is secure. And then on that, I'm only putting the glue on the part that pops up. And then I'll put my flower box right on that. And so the flowers that are glued to the box, that pink, orange, and purple flower, and some of the leaves will pop up. And then we fold them in. See, now here's why we have to double and triple check, because I adhered that little leaf. So we want to make sure that none of that is overhanging on the parts that will fold. And it's going to be the same thing when we adhere the stuff to the front. So you don't want anything blocking up your fold, because it won't allow it to close. So like I pushed it down, then I re-glued my leaf, and now everything is within the fold. My shutters are closed, and we're good to go. So I did the Hello Friend. I actually did this in like a weird combination. So I used a black that was a little bit dry, and then I stamped it again in a navy to make it like a very dark navy, because I couldn't find my In the Navy ink pad. That's what I would have done if I could have found it, but I couldn't find it. So I'll link that one as well as the other one, the combo ones that I used. And then I used that same paint and splatter to add some shimmer to the center of the flowers. This is how we're going to keep it closed. This is where the gatefold comes in. So I'm counting up the little stripes on my shutter, because I cannot let this glue seep through onto my flower box and flowers below. You'll be able to see it. So I did very thin lines of glue just on the shutter part on the right hand side, because I need that to keep my shutters closed because it's still an A2 size card, and it'll still fit in an A2 size envelope. This is repositionable glue. You can use a dry repositionable glue if you would like. I use Tombow Mono multi glue. It dries repositionable. So I just did a pretty fat like stripe there of it. And then once that dries, it'll be tacky enough that it'll keep it closed. So here I started messing around with putting my dragonfly on, and then this is where I remembered, like, that fold at the bottom. My dragonfly cannot overhang my window because it won't clear the fold. So I have to make sure that it's in far enough that when I open it, the dragonfly will not be in the way. And because I messed around with it quite a bit, I did have some adhesive that got places. Thank God for adhesive erasers. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this one, but we only want the glue to be on that white portion. You don't want the glue to be on the shutter. If it's on the shutter, it won't open. So it can only be adhered to that sentiment piece. And once again, you have to wait until that Tombow multi-glue is dry. If it's still white, it will seal it permanently. So then that's it. That's the whole card. I think this is super fun. You pop it open, hello friend, and then we just close it back up so that they get like a fun little surprise. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.